Welcome to the Blindside Blitz. Today, we're breaking down why it's Super Bowl or bust for the Buffalo Bills, how the Jaguars just turned heads with a statement win, and why the race for the NFC's #1 seed is still wide open. We'll also tackle the chaos of the NFC South and debate who's ready to take control. Plus, former NFL scout Blake Beddingfield joins us with an insider's perspective you won't want to miss. Let's fire it up. Welcome, everybody. I am Jim McFee, and right there's Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Blitz Nation? We are back, baby, to talk some more football. Can't wait for it. I know the season's almost over. Some of you are happy. Some of you are sad about it, but we're going to get you through this whole thing. And, Jim, we're joined by a special guest.
Absolutely. Bring him in, Joe.
Blake Beddingfield. Look at this guy. This guy's the aficionado of scouting. This guy's had his hands in the trenches, so to speak, in the NFL, has been heavily involved and still continues to be. Blake, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys, on the eve of Christmas. It's
Yes.
what better to talk about than football?
Merry Clinchmas, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Blake, there's so much different things to talk about right now, but I know you, again, worked for 19 years with the Tennessee Titans. And I know I looked at a few of your old tweets too, so I don't want to bring up old stuff for you, but I know you were very on board and a big supporter of Amy Adams Strunk. And recently, since then, she's fired Mike Vrabel, and now they're currently looking for a head coach. But Vrabel's doing great with the Patriots right now. How do you feel about ownership with this team and where the Titans are headed right now?
Too many changes. It's hard to build stability in the NFL if you're constantly having turnover, whether it's the front office or coaching staff, it doesn't matter. But what you end up having is what ends up suffering are some of the young, talented players. They end up suffering because schemes change, personnel changes, the way coaches want to do things. Unfortunately, Cam Ward, the #1 pick in the draft last year, is going to have a coaching change going into year 2. It's a quarterback killer in most markets. We drafted Marcus Mariota when I was with the Titans, and the one thing I wrote in my summary of the report was, do not change systems. And what did we do? Change systems very next year. So you cannot do that kind of stuff. Most players or most quarterbacks that fail and are considered bust, are usually organizational issues that they are causing the bust factor of the quarterback. And it's the upheaval, it's the changing, it's personnel. So it's a lot of it. So right now, the ownership has been poor. When Amy Adams came in, I was with the Titans. She took over actually there was a transition for her father, Bud Adams. Son-in-law Tommy Smith took over at the time for a short period, and then Amy Adams. You had a lot of changes in a short amount of time. And when I was there when she first started, I thought it was an ideal spot to come in as a general manager or coach because she was in Texas and you could run the organization yourself. But she's jumped in the fray and kind of can't decide really what she wants to do in a lot of situations in terms of stability with the front office and the coaching staff. Seems like she's leaning toward one every year and ends up firing the other. And that's not a winning proposition for an organization.
No, it's not. And we talk about changes. Don't change the scheme for these new players. But we see it all the time, every single season at the end of the year. We're approaching that now. And Black Monday is about to be, here, and still people are debating on who and what head coaches may be relieved of their duties. In your opinion, what's a couple of guys that you may be even hearing, or maybe in your own opinion, think are going to lose their jobs when it's all said and done?
When you look at the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski, who's actually done a really good job in the past, this year was not, and it was a lot of his doing, changing quarterbacks, the drafting, the front office drafting two young quarterbacks back to back was a setup for failure right off the bat. It's going to split the locker room. It's going to split the fan base, and maybe even have ownership having to pick a side with that. It's unfortunate for the two young quarterbacks as well. I'll say that. And Stefanski has had to manage that and really didn't do a great job of it. And down the stretch, they've really struggled. Despite having the best player in the NFL in Miles Garrett, they cannot figure out the offensive side of the ball. Even though there are a few young pieces that you like, the team's just not there, and they may go into next year looking for another quarterback, maybe a coach as well. And, eventually the GM, Andrew Berry, is going to have to answer for these decisions as well. It's not just the hitch. When you build a team, when you construct a roster, you put one on the field that has to have a cohesive group together. And they seem to have put pieces in place, players in place, but not a team, not a roster that's been constructed to actually win. So that's one. The Arizona Cardinals had a nice roster, quarterback position. I'm not a Kyler Murray guy. I think he's a dynamic athlete, a terrific college football player, terrific baseball player, but not a NFL quarterback that's going to have the stability. You didn't see the progression in him like you want to see an athlete that's coming in and playing that position. You didn't see the progression year to year of staying in the pocket, making throws, which he has the talent to do, but it has to be up top. It has to be the 1-2 factor. Baker Mayfield's a great example of that. Baker Mayfield was a floater in the pocket in Cleveland. He was someone that escaped too early, wanted to throw off his back foot all the time because he could do that in college. He didn't do that. He went to a number of different places, finally figured it out, and has had that reemergence in Tampa Bay where he's become a really good NFL quarterback. Was he worthy of the first pick in the draft? Maybe, maybe not, but he's become a really good winning type quarterback because he made the progression finally. So those two examples, I think, where you're going to see some changes. The Arizona Cardinals have a talented roster. There are some pieces in place, just not under center, and that's where they've got to really find that.
Right, right. And you talk about, we've talked about the quarterbacks or the head coaches, don't change schemes and everything. How is that going to involve now? We talk about the running backs in this league and how some of them, to name a couple, just say Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, have been taking a lot of grief lately this season. How come you're not running the same way you were before? Or for Genty's case, you're supposed to be one of the best backs to come out in 10 years, but we're not seeing it on the football field all the time. Now, how often is that the offensive line lack of execution, or is it the play calling, or is it both?
I think in Genty's case, you've got a really poor offense. You don't have a very good offensive line. Quarterback's kind of at the end of his career. You didn't have the players on the outside at the receiver position, outside of maybe Brock Bowers, who could be called a receiver, a big flex, tight end. That really was dynamic enough to take the pressure off the line of scrimmage and the running back. When Derek came into the league, I was with the Titans when we drafted him. And when Derek first came into the league, there was we had DeMarco Murray that made the transition to Derek. The team was just building at that time, and he didn't have immediate success. You saw flashes of it, but the team had to go out and get an established quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, had to go out and get some other personnel to take some of that pressure off Derrick Henry, build the offensive line up a little bit. And once that happened, Derek became that dynamic player that he was at Alabama in high school and his whole career, in a Hall of Fame career he's had in the NFL. Inty's going to need that personnel around him. Brock Bowers is a great piece. What else are they going to do? You can't just go fix the defense. You got to go build around this nice running back you have. I know a lot of people say running backs are a dime a dozen. They're really not. Most teams that have success have a good running back, or they're looking for one. Even the Kansas City Chiefs, all those years with Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, they were always looking for that running back piece, whether they drafted Clyde Edward-Helaire in the first round, or they would go out and Kareem Hunt, multiple different players they would go out and try to acquire to find that running back spot to take pressure off Mahomes, Kelsey, and the receivers that they had. So it is a position of need. You see how dynamic Bijan Robinson has been in Atlanta, and they've got a few pieces in place, and he's one of the best backs in the NFL. It's what he's turned into. So, I think the running back position, Derek and Genty, Derek's in a position with another running quarterback, and that's kind of a tough spot for him. You see the big plays he'll have at times, but they can also defenses can also take that away. If Lamar doesn't have his running game, that offense is a totally different offense. If he doesn't have the threat of being able to escape in the pocket and move and get downfield, it's a totally different offense. When he has his legs underneath him, he's tough. and that whole offense is tough.
Agreed, agreed. Now I gotta shift gears a little bit here, and I gotta talk about some of these teams. I mean, we've been baffled this season. The NFL season's been up and down. It's been a roller coaster of emotions for a lot of players, a lot of fans, even. And now we're at the part where are we really starting to figure these teams out? So, in your opinion, Blake, what's one team that exceeded expectations, and what's a team that didn't reach them?
I think you mentioned that team in the intro for me. Jacksonville Jaguars exceeded my expectations because they fixed Trevor Lawrence. Trevor had the ability to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, no question about it, coming out of Clemson, but he was broken. And why was he broken? Very similar to what we went through. Multiple
Mhm.
coaches, multiple schemes, not the right situation for Trevor Lawrence. Even as dynamic of an athlete he is and as much success as he had in his entire career, it wasn't set up for success when he first came in the league. He had a lot of bumps and bruises, but they found somebody to fix him. And they fixed some of the personnel around him. He's now showing it. And that team has taken off a lot because of him. The running game has been good. The offensive line has been solid and the receivers have emerged. Some of the receivers have
Mhm.
emerged that really weren't expected to emerge. And then the defense had pass rushers, which is a premium in the NFL. So if you have quarterback play and you can rush a passer, you're going to have success in this league. And now they have the quarterback play to go along with some of the other pieces. So they've been the biggest surprise. The Detroit Lions are one of the most talented teams in the NFL. They are flat out. I mean, there's not many levels on any really any level on their team that's not good. And they just haven't had the success that I thought they would have. Love the coach, love a lot of the pieces that they have. Big fan of Brad Holmes, the GM. He's put a lot of good players there. I really don't have a reason for it. They have a quarterback that's won the Super Bowl before. They have pieces in place. They just haven't won like I thought they would. I thought they would be in the Super Bowl or at least pushing for it, and now they may be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the different quarterbacks and how a scheme, how the franchise could be an issue. We've seen multiple first rounders not work out and the team that they've been drafted on and now moved on. Look at Sam Darnold right now. Baker Mayfield you brought up as well. Look what it happened in San Francisco with Mac Jones even too, and excelling on just a different team. Many more years in the league too on top of it too. Maybe alleviating some of that pressure that we put on these quarterbacks and try to give them that expiration date. Like you've got this much time to prove this or you're gone. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I think that's part of it too that adds on to it. Now bringing up quarterbacks in, let's talk about the Tennessee Titans again one more time. And Cam Ward, what's your assessment of them being the number one overall pick and how he's playing, starting off slow, but seems like these last couple weeks he's starting to get it together here with this team. What's your assessment of Cam Ward and going forward with the Titans?
I think Cam Ward initially, when you talk about the first pick in the draft, you're talking about a franchise player. I
Mhm.
don't think he'll ever be a franchise player. So that means he needs players around him to have success. The Titans have one of the worst group of personnel in the NFL. They just really don't have enough. Calvin Ridley, who was supposed to be the top receiver, been injured most of the year or very inconsistent. They've had some young guys step up, which has been nice along with Cam. Cam's a player that shows in flashes. What I like to say, he looks good in flashes, but not consistent through the game. He has some accuracy issues, definitely placing the ball placement issues. Downfield, the vertical game has been a problem, and you see defenses challenging him to throw the ball downfield. So they're taking everything short and intermediate away from him and forcing him to throw downfield. The running game had an issue along with the offensive line early on, and it's emerged. And as the running game has gotten better with Tony Pollard, who's a veteran running back and a solid player, Cam Ward's game has picked up. It's taken a little bit of that pressure off of him, and along with some of the rookies that have emerged, like Chimray DK out of Florida, the fourth round
Mhm.
pick. So that has helped. But Ward is going to be one of those players. He's always been the underdog, whether he was a zero star that didn't have the one offer to Incarnate Word and went to Incarnate Word. Nobody really liked him. Goes to Washington State. Nobody really knew him. Goes to Miami. He emerged. He got to be the number one pick in the draft. He went from being the sleeper, the underdog, to the big dog. And he had to kind of figure out how to live in that world where he's never lived before. And some people that come in, like Derrick Henry, who's the leading rusher in high school history, goes to Alabama,
Mhm.
wins a Heisman Trophy. You've always been the big dog. Cam Ward's never done that. And not that he can't handle it, he just had to learn, and he had to learn in the NFL with a team that just didn't have a lot of very good personnel around him on the offense or defensive side of the ball. They've got a big task ahead of them, putting players around him, and they've got to do it now. You can't go into year two with a rookie quarterback and hope that he becomes the franchise, because I don't think he's that talent. You've got to put people around him so he can be a kind of a facilitator, a winning type quarterback. And that's okay. You can win with quarterbacks like him. You just have to have players around him.
Mhm. Yeah, no, you talk about quarterbacks and you've talked about, it's Kevin Stefanski now where his seat might be hot. We've seen different things that he's had Baker Mayfield in the house and look what he's doing somewhere else. They drafted two quarterbacks in this past draft. Dylan Gabriel now, who is benched for Shedeur Sanders, and people would even question why take two quarterbacks, or even why is Shedeur even, the emergency quarterback, and now he's finally getting a spot and seems like he's looking pretty good here right now. What's your assessment to that, and what's your take on taking two different quarterbacks, and why do you think Shedeur was put back so far? Do you think it was like a disciplinary thing, or like a character thing they were trying to change, or they just really didn't evaluate him that high?
I think that, I know that a lot of the pundits had Shador very high, and he has some arm talent. He does. He's got some instinctive ability to play the game, but he's got a lot of fundamental flaws as well. He's really late on throws. He floats in the pocket. He doesn't have the arm to float and get out of it. You remember when Michael Vick used to throw the ball, he'd spin it with his wrist. The ball would just come out. I don't care where he was, flat-footed, falling backwards, standing on
Right.
one leg, got out of his hand. Shedeur doesn't have that arm ability, but he has an instinctive ability to see the field, and that's a good quality. Now, is he going to make that change in the second year? That's a big deal for him. Can he be a player that uses that instinctive quality that he has, that innate trait that he has, an intangible quality, to go along with, I would say, a lot of average level skills, average arm strength, sometimes average accuracy, the inability to kind of see underneath coverage. At times he doesn't see that very well. But, I think there's some tools there that you like, where Dylan Gabriel's more of an accurate quarterback, short to intermediate guy, get the ball out of his hand, kind of fits that style where, you like to see him have players that can run after the catch.
Yeah.
What do they have in Cleveland? They don't. I mean, they don't have the talent. They keep, the rookie tight end's been solid. Fanning and Njoku's just, he's kind of who he is now. Jerry Judy's been around how long and how many different places. It's just not there for him. Quishon Junkins looked good until he got injured this
Yeah.
past week. But
Mhm.
there were some pieces there. But Gabriel's just going to be a solid facilitator of the ball, and he's going to make good decisions. He's not going to have a lot of turnovers. Where right now Shedeur is kind of turning the ball over way too much and putting the ball up, but he's trying to make plays. That's his
Right.
ability. He wants to make plays. This has been a big year for Shedeur. He's never not been in a situation where his dad hasn't been the coach and kind of had his back. He's got NFL guys that are looking at him, expecting him to make plays. And Dad's not there anymore, so it's a tough transition for a young man. But they have two pieces. Are those the guys that are going to win you Super Bowls? I'd say year one is not saying yeah, but
Mhm.
they really want to go in and draft a third quarterback to go along with those two young guys. It's a tough situation. You're going to have to dump one of them if that's
Yeah.
you're just not going to be able to keep all three. But that's another. I would think Stefanski's probably. I would think he probably didn't want two quarterbacks.
Mhm.
But that's a tough situation to be in. He's probably wanting out. I would think. I look on his face sometimes on the sidelines. I'm thinking he wants out of there,
Yeah,
and he'll
right.
get another job if he's fired. He'll get another job.
Absolutely. And talk about tough decisions. I know a lot of people have even talked to me and asked me, and my opinion on this. But Colin Cowherd came on his show and was like, "Hey, the Giants, if they're smart, they should, trade Jackson Dart and draft." Mendoza. Yeah, say you're in the GM cap here. What's your take on that? And like, do you think that's even a possibility, or would you even consider that with how you just, got the quarterback? So why would you make a move so quick? And well, what's really the value there?
Two totally different guys. Jackson
Mhm.
Dart's a better athlete than Mendoza. Mendoza's going to be a pocket guy. Do you have the pocket, for him to be there? Do you have the offensive line, the running game? Do you have those kind of guys that can really make Fernando successful? Jackson, he's plays a lot like he did at Ole Miss. He'll show flashes. He'll show some arm talent, some athletic ability. But when it comes down to it, he's making a lot of mistakes. And a lot of mistakes is he's holding the ball and he's taking a lot of hits. You were not going to survive in the NFL taking hits. We had a quarterback that took a lot of hits like Jake Locker. And Jake Locker took a ton of hits.
Yep.
And when he got hurt, he never really got hurt lightly. It was a rotator cuff. It was a hip subluxation. It was major stuff, broken bones. Well, that's what Jackson's going to have if he doesn't protect himself. The toughness, he wants to be tough. I get it. But you know what? The team wants you on the field. And there's some arm talent there, but he's got to show the ability to be consistent. Consistent quarterbacks win in the NFL, not just the, as crazy as Brett Favre was with the ball at times, he was really consistent player. He made some crazy throws, but he had the arm to do it. But he was a really consistent player for his 18, 19 years in the league. So, everybody called him the gunslinger, but he was really accurate guy. So you have to be both. If you're going to be a gunslinger, you got to be accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to answer your question, you can't give up on one guy. But if you're going to do it, this is the time to do it. You're going to get a new head coach, a new offensive system. You've got to have the offensive system that fits Fernando Mendoza, if that's your guy. If that's your guy, you got to have the offensive system to do it. And then try to get another draft choice for Dart, which you probably can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought about it too, and I'm like, I don't know. For me, it's like you kind of know what Dart is at this point. Maybe you're not sure about Mendoza unless you're in love with him. Like you said, a new regime comes in, and that's what they think they have. But is it better draft value for getting picks for Dart or getting picks for the number 1 overall pick if you have the number 1 overall pick? So what that might be, and if somebody does want Mendoza, what are they willing to give up? So that's kind of the question for me.
What are the statistics on quarterbacks that have success after changing coaches? It's not very good. And so you're setting yourself up for that 30% or whatever of having success. If you're Joe Shane, the GM, if you get another year, do you want to tie yourself to Mendoza or do you want to tie yourself to Dart?
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So talk about this upcoming draft. Is there somebody, I know you've been doing your work, is there somebody now you see coming out that is your top prospect right now?
I don't think there's that one guy. And just like last year, I didn't think there was that one guy last year. They had some pieces. And that's kind of where you're going to in the NFL. With college football now, with the NIL, some kids are staying. Why not stay, make another $2-3 million, whatever it is, instead of going to the league? Because eventually, the league will be there when you run out of eligibility, unless you're, Diego Pavia, where you're in year 9 or 10 or whatever he's in. But, you get those opportunities to make money. So you're seeing that lull of draft choices and prospects come out because used to, they hit year 3, redshirt sophomore, true junior, they're gone. And now you're seeing a less of a group. So that's unfortunately is the value of that top 10 pick the same as it used to be. I think that's what teams are going to have to evaluate. And they love to have the analytics groups and the metrics. That's going to come out in the next 3 or 4 years. Is that value of that top 10 pick worth it? And the reason I say that is, if it's an elite player, sure. But how many elite players are in this draft? I would say as many as last draft where you had the Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter and you had a couple of players here and there. But are you better off getting a 11th, 12th, 13th pick? And the reason I say that is because when the 5th-year option comes up, it's less money to pay that 5th year on the 11th, 12th, 13th pick than it is a top 10 pick. We ran into that when I was with the Titans and we drafted Jack Conklin, number 9 overall. Well, you had to pay him top 10 money as a tackle, and we had already had Taylor Lewan, the left tackle, making big money. The GM at the time decided it wasn't worth it, and he didn't get the 5th-year option. So you took a guy in the 9th pick overall and only got 4 years out of it. The value's really not there. You have to think about those type things as a GM, and I think that the research is being done on is that worth having a top 10 pick.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking to Blake Beddingfield, former scout with the Titans. He's got contacts all around the NFL right now. He's talking to all kinds of people and also scouting around the clock. You have had the talent and even the chance to draft so many great players right here with the Titans and in your career, seeing, Javon Curse the Freak. I mean, Chris Johnson. I mean, I can just name what you said, Taylor Law. I mean, Derrick Henry. Is there somebody that you guys were scouting, but it was like the one that got away for you guys?
Oh man, there's no doubt about it. So when there's always the one that got away. You know, the one you made a mistake on, we kind of forget.
Yeah, yeah.
The one that got away in the second round. God, what was this? 2013? No, I could be way off. 2006, maybe.
That's right. We don't fact check. It's all good.
Number, I remember every draft choice. Heck, I can remember the height, weight, speed, all that kind of stuff. I can't remember my phone number half the time, but we were going to draft in the second round. We actually had Devin Hester on the phone, and our scout, the way we did it with the Titans, the scout in that area would go get once the GM made the decision, hey, we're going to draft Devin Hester. You go get him on the phone, talk to him for a second, then the head coach comes in, the GM, and they start talking. We've never had a situation where we got a player on the phone and not taking the player. But so we had the 10 minutes in the second round, and he said, hey, go get Devin Hester on the phone. And so we did, or the area scout did. And he had him on the phone. He's telling him he's a Tennessee Titan, and that was what's going to happen. And there was communication in the draft room between the GM, the head coach, and the offensive coordinator. At that time, the offensive coordinator was a newly hired guy from USC. And the head coach was a former USC Trojan, and they convinced the GM, who was not a USC guy, actually played at UCLA, but to take Lindell White. So GM relented, took Lindell White. He said, he actually told me, he said, Blake, go tell the scout to get off the phone because we're not taking Devin. Devin's now a Hall of Famer, and Lindell's not.
No way.
That's how you make mistakes sometimes.
That's
go
crazy.
Go with your board. I can tell any GM, I always do. Every GM that gets a new job, I always text. And I say, do it your way. Go with your board. Go with your scouts. Don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to ownership. You go and do what you will do. Because otherwise, you start listening to all these other people, you're going to get fired. Right. And you're going to have regrets of why you got fired. So don't do that. Go listen to your board.
Wow,
so
absolutely. Man, you definitely hear the stories now. I mean, and we see now with social media and everything else, people are actually getting pranked. Hey, you're getting drafted by this team, and it's a thing. But actually be on the phone, and you're like, hey, man, you're a Titan, and all of a sudden they're like, what? Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Oh, we got to go on. That's just mind-blowing. Oh, man. Blake Beddingfield, absolutely. Do you have a website? I know you were doing Beddingfield Sports. I mean, do you have a website anybody can go to?
I really don't. I kind of have that website. I think it's still floating around, but I actually, I really don't have a website I pump. But, I work a lot in the NFL still as a consultant. And I've worked with a lot of agents and have my own company or not my own company, but a company that I work for called X3 Performance. Where we bring in college athletes and we have them train for the combine. We have 3 locations, one in Nashville, one in Fort Myers, Florida, one in Orlando. And we'll end up having about 125 college players, and we'll train them for the combine, basically.
Nice.
Have a really lot of success with that. It's kind of a newer company in the last 6-7 years, and I had a lot of success. And last year had 27 draft choices. Actually, Chimere DK was one of them who's
nice.
Going to the Pro Bowl, so that's a good thing.
Right.
And he was one of the X3 guys, and had a lot of fun with it. I enjoy it. I do a lot of the interview with the players, and because they're going to get interviewed by the team.
Yeah.
I love it. I love being around it. I love being around the guys, and it's a lot of fun. So I do a lot of that, and a lot of college evaluations. Like I said, I probably evaluated 450 guys already leading up to this draft, and I've got probably about 100 more to go. So it's fun though. It's football.
Absolutely. Yep. We love it. We love the insight. And Joe, let me tell you, as we're having these conversations, I love this guy, right? And we know our guy, Roderick David. Roderick David interned under you too. That's crazy.
Roderick was one of my interns. He was really good. And he actually went on right after that to the Falcons. The guy I worked for, Rustin Webster, was my boss, the general manager. When he was let go, he got hired by the Falcons, and I think he kind of recommended Roderick to the. I'm saying this. I don't even know. Yeah. Roderick didn't tell me this, and Rustin didn't tell me this. It just kind of all happened at the same time, and then Roderick had a nice career with the Falcons and doing good things. So I know on podcast and different things like that.
Hey, but Joe, I got my brain going. I'm like, we do actually a live show during the NFL draft, and we've had Roderick on as our inside guy like twice so far as one of them, but Joe, Blake, and Roderick maybe on the same panel with us.
We got to add him to the roster.
Well, yeah, we
Gotta
got
have
we got to get that going. We got to get William on it. So, Blake, we definitely appreciate you being on with us, and hope to see you again in the future. As the postseason's rolling on, get you on again before the season ends, and hopefully, yeah, we're talking draft pretty soon.
Hey, it's always draft time around my house. So
Always.
everybody talks about Christmas. That's my Christmas. Right?
Yeah,
Awesome, that's it.
absolutely.
Hey, and one more thing. How do you think Alabama's chances are here in the playoff?
I'm in Alabama
Yeah.
alone, and my daughter's actually a senior at Alabama, so she's cheering for him because she wants to go to the national championship. So if any Alabama football people are listening,
Mhm.
we need tickets. But anyway, so I don't know. It's I'm not quite sure that
Yeah.
but I think it's kind of wide open. I really like
Yeah.
Ohio State's talent. Ryan Day is one of the coaches that has the NIL transfer portal figured out. If you look at it, two of his best players, the quarterback came from
Mhm.
Alabama, the safety
Really
came from
insane.
Alabama. Why not go get great players?
Yeah.
Don't mess around with some of these other players. Go get the elite players. He didn't mess around in free agency, going and getting somebody's backup that he was hoping to develop. He went and got established players to go along with the Jeremiah Smiths and the great players that
Mhm.
he already has, right? That he's doing recruiting. He's the one guy that's got it figured out right now. And that's why they have continued success. They never miss that quarterback. Last year was Will Howard. They just keep that position stocked. Why not? Even look, they had Quinn Ewers for a while, and he
Mhm.
was a backup sitting there collecting an NIL check. Why not have the talent? So, I think they're going to be tough to beat. I love the Indiana story. I'm a big Kurt, Signetti guy. I love him and love what they're doing there. Fernando Mendoza coming from Cal. Again, why not go get a successful quarterback? I watched Fernando. I know we were about to run, but I watched Fernando a year ago beat Auburn when he was at Cal almost single-handedly. And Indiana was probably watching that film too because they saw a quarterback that not only big guy with the athletic ability, but can put a team on his back and win ball games. And with the head coach that they had there and the talent that they've gotten around him, it's really been solid. So I love college football. It's fun,
Nice.
and I'm a big Alabama guy. I grew up in the state of Alabama, went to school there, and
Mhm.
cheering for the Tide. We'll see. It's
Awesome.
yeah, they got a lot of
Awesome.
interest. So
All right. Well, hey, it was a pleasure talking to you. And like we said, hope to see
Absolutely.
you in the future. But
my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. You bet.
no problem. Take care. All right. There you go. Blake Beddingfield, ladies and gentlemen, man. And it's funny because you get those interviews on, right? And you're like, well, we got to do like a 20-minute spot. And then it ends up turning like
Yeah.
40 minutes, something like that. But you just keep getting more information and more stories, and it just keeps you going. Like I couldn't stop.
Great info.
You know what I mean, Joe?
I
I mean,
honestly-
it just rolls into another one. And that's why
Yeah.
he gets into another story. I just let it roll. I want to hear the story.
Yeah.
Right. And he was telling us even, off air before we got on about other guys that are still out there here scouting and stuff like that have been in the game and still are inactive, the stories that are all there. And that's what you get from Blake and also the insight that he has right here. And that's what I mean when we're talking about Roderick. I want to see just the different opinions that they have on different guys here on the same panel, Joe.
Yeah, and it's different too because even though they have different opinions with some players or even scouting, like they might actually be closer than we think in terms of a player, how they read a player, how what their projection is going to be. So we gotta have both of them, Roderick and Blake, both on the panel draft day, even if it's maybe when we first start, have them both on at the same time so we can bounce different ideas off each other, and then we'll see how we'll figure it out after that. But I gotta say, like, I could have talked to that guy for 6 straight hours.
Yeah.
Like just to dive into his mind of the things that he's seen, the decisions that he's made as a scout, and what he sees for the upcoming draft. It's going to be very
Mhm.
exciting. Guys, the audience out there, Blitz Nation, make sure you tune in when these guys come on our show because they are invaluable. The knowledge that these guys have, the information that they have, we want you to drop right in the comments right away. When we are live, guys, it's an open forum, really. Ask a question. We'll ask these guys that have been there, done that, and are still involved, by the way, in the NFL with college athletes. You know what I mean? They might be hearing things that we still didn't ask them, and maybe we'll ask them when it comes time for draft time. But I got to say, awesome interview. Great to have him on as a guest, and can't wait to have him on again.
All right. All right. Breathe the fresh air now. The reset, Joe. It is coming on to the playoff time. So let's get right into it. And now we got to talk ball after that, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
Well, that's what
All
we've
right,
been
so
talking about.
Here we go. Is it Super Bowl or bust for the Bills, Joe? They have an impressive win again. Now, looking forward, you don't have the Chiefs. It looks like you might not have the Ravens. I don't know.
Yeah, they're out
But
of it.
with with everything here now, what is it Super Bowl or bust for the Bills?
I think it's almost at the point where Sean McDermott is going to lose his job regardless. Like we keep hearing all kinds of stories out of Buffalo about how the fans are upset with him, the front office is upset with him. That like they're losing games that they shouldn't lose. But then I get it. They recently, right? Like they strung along a couple of wins back to back, and everything's projecting in the right direction. They're gonna make the playoffs. What can they do after it? I gotta say that the first round one and done's not going to cut it. It is Super Bowl or bust at this point. It's time to make that move. However, we've talked about the Buffalo Bills a lot this season, and we've talked about how they still don't have that Super Bowl caliber roster yet. They still are lacking in positions on the defense. They're still lacking with wide receivers. You know what I mean? So they have the running back, they got the offensive line. Obviously, they got the quarterback. Everybody knows that. But the outside talent isn't there. It's not a Super Bowl winning team. Even to make the Super Bowl will be an uphill climb. So I think that if they don't make the Super Bowl, which isn't likely, I think McDermott's done. I think they're going to look to retool that roster, start over with a new coach, new coaching staff, and look to the future for next season.
Yeah, and when you look at it Super Bowl or bust for the Bills, I think it is because the fact that you don't have the Ravens, you don't have the Chiefs. Those are the teams standing in your way. So they're not in your way anymore. Plus, you've got teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars who are just getting back into the playoffs. The Patriots are just getting back into the playoffs. The Denver Broncos, who the offense has been okay, but mainly riding on their defense. So it seems like, and the Texans too, just jumping back into this. So it seems like every team here has either beat each other once or so, or everybody's kind of beatable. And for that team to go in and have all these different expectations, I understand that your defense is like 31st in the NFL in EPA per rush here against the run. That is their sieve here. The defense is bad against the run, and Josh Allen has to do everything he can, put the Superman cape on to win. But lately, he has done that. He's taken them on his shoulders and do that. And you can't put off the fact that James Cook, the way he's running too, on top of it, a top rusher in the league, and he is the effective part of these offense. It's these two guys, Cook and Josh Allen, that got to get it going. I feel like they have any chance as much as anybody to
Right. It's any given Sunday.
Buffalo ranks 4th in the NFL in points with 8.9 per game, and 7th in passing touchdowns too, as of week 17, which are fastly approaching right now. I think they will be tested in the next couple of weeks. They've got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Patriots again. So they need to have some strong wins and finish here, especially competing for that AFC championship, or the AFC East championship. But they have a better chance than anybody right now. And with the field the way it is, they have a good shot to do it.
So there's an interesting stat that I found, and it's kind of comical when you really think about it. But Sean McDermott, when he wears his glasses on the sidelines, I got to tell you, when he wears his glasses on the sideline, the Buffalo Bills are 3-3. When he doesn't wear his glasses and he's on the sideline, they're 7-1. Call it coincidence, call it whatever you want. All I know is this man should stop wearing damn glasses for the playoffs.
Nice. All I know too is, before we move on from this, is that if the Bills do not make the Super Bowl or they get bounced, this cannot be a knock on Josh Allen and his legacy, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, no.
You can't say that this is something against Josh Allen and it's his fault, because narratives are going to be painted like they've done with Lamar Jackson. They've done with quarterbacks from all to the test of time, right? He, as we talked about, has been doing it all on his own. He doesn't play defense. He doesn't, he runs the ball and things like that, but he's not doing everything. It takes a team to win. Right. He just happens to be their captain and their best player right now. But he cannot take the fall for this. And they should not hold this against Josh Allen if it is not a Super Bowl. Like you
Right.
said, I agree. Then it would have to fall down to coaching. And I would
Yeah.
even say at this
Mhm.
point, look at the GM and Brandon Beane, even for some of the talent that he hasn't been able to bring in to help Josh Allen to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too, is like, I know everybody, as far as Bills fans, point to Josh Allen like that's Superman. Well, I think he's more like Batman because he does have a sidekick, Robin, who AKA is James Cook. And that's really what's kind of helping this offense consistently score points. Between Josh Allen and James Cook, those are the two players that you got to slow down at least or stop. Find a way to. Because if you can do that, the Bills are in trouble when that happens, and we've seen it. You know, obviously, Josh Allen is the guy that has the ball in his hands all the time, so he can either run or throw the football. We get that. But James Cook is another really, really good player for the Buffalo Bills to not be overlooked.
All right, next up, are the Jaguars the team to beat in the AFC with them winning 6 consecutive games? And good defense, Trevor Lawrence playing some safe, competitive football too on top of it and not making big mistakes. Heard Blake talk about it a little bit. Joe, are the Jaguars the team to beat in the AFC?
I think there's a couple of teams in the AFC that are really rolling right now, that have a lot of momentum going as they get closer and closer to the playoffs. Jaguars are one. I still think the Texans are. I mean, you might look at this past week's game against the Raiders and say, well, the Raiders gave them a hard time, and yeah, but they still came away with the win, not convincingly. Like I thought they were going to steamroll them, but again, every dog has its day, right? So I think the Jaguars are one of those teams that they are building such crazy momentum right now. They have uncanny belief in themselves. Honestly, when you look at this team from top to bottom, I'll say this: before the season started, I did not give the Jaguars a shot to make the playoffs. But with Liam Cohen taking the head coaching duties and really almost kind of reteaching Trevor Lawrence what to do, what not to do, and with his play calling has been almost impeccable. It's been perfect for this Jaguars team. So Liam Cohen tag teaming with Trevor Lawrence. This team is on an ascension like no other. And we already knew about how good the Jaguars defense was. We knew that this offense had to somehow, some way catch up to it. And it has this season. So as much of a naysayer I was in the beginning of the season, I'm starting to come around to it because Trevor Lawrence continues to surprise me and this Jaguars team. Liam Cohen has done a great job, a phenomenal job. And honestly, he's definitely got to be in consideration for head coach of the year.
Absolutely. I think he should. When you look at a team that, again, was at the bottom of the league and now they're making a playoff run, the odds of them making the Super Bowl from the beginning of the season to now dramatically improved. Plus 9,000 to win the Super Bowl. Now it's 1,600. Drastic change. People are jumping on board on top too, and people are, and I know Josh Hines Allen and others that said, "Hey, we don't want you on this bandwagon." Well, we get all right, whatever. We chill, but it kind of is reminiscent to me, and they're different teams. The Eagles had a better defense, but that underdog mentality, this team is kind of taken that upon themselves. We're the dog that nobody has belief in. And we're just going out and we're balling and we're winning games and we're winning it in tough games. Directed by Sean Payton. And I've seen this again, go off topic real quick. This guy disrespects more people than I've ever seen before in my life, right on the podium, right to their face. And it's ridiculous how he just calls people out nonstop. And it's great that Liam Cohen was able to kind of bounce right back at him and say, yeah, for a small market, we did this. Kudos to Liam Cohen. I hope he can win that coach of the year in this one. Now I'm rooting for him.
Exactly. And here's the other thing too, is it's not like this team was good, but then they made a trade before the deadline happened, which I think really opened up this offense and happened to really help Trevor Lawrence. You got to surround players like Blake Beddingfield was just on this podcast, and he said himself, you got to surround your quarterbacks with talent, correct? Well, they did that before the trade deadline, trading for Jacoby Myers, wide receiver from the Vegas Raiders. Since joining Jacksonville, here's a crazy stat. He's had 27 catches, 356 yards, and 3 TDs. The team since his trade is 5-1.
Absolutely.
It's a great thing when you know your organization. Gladstone is the GM there in Jacksonville. Guess what? This is his first year as a GM. Never had experience as the GM beforehand. And this dude has completely turned the hopes of the fans, has turned this organization around by, you even think about the draft, trading all the way up to get Travis, adding him to the squad. Now,
Mhm.
before the trade deadline, in his rookie year as a GM, trading for Jacoby Myers, adding more talent to this team that was already good, but making it even better and ready for a playoff run.
Yeah, this team has taken the underdog mentality, and they're that team that people are rooting for. They're that Detroit Lions of old, of the
Yes,
last couple of seasons.
the
This is that
Detroit
team.
Lions, yep, of this year for sure.
Yes, yes. Trevor Lawrence, he threw for 12 touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns with 0 interceptions in his last 4 games, averaging high passer ratings in key wins. Travis Etienne, not only in the run game, but now multiple receiving touchdowns and big wins, showing versatility in the passing game. The offense extended a franchise record by scoring 25 plus points in 8 straight games, and also the efficiency on top of it, scored touchdowns on 8 of 9 possessions in one game, with Lawrence running one in. So the offense ticking up to complement that defense. They're America's darling right now. And so I think they have a shot. They could be the kind of the team to beat, to an extent that they're the team that people are kind of on board with and kind of secretly hoping for, in a sense, I would say, like
Yeah.
when we talked about with the Detroit Lions. All right. Next, who will win the number 1 seed in the NFC? Because now, after the Seahawks beat the Rams in OT and getting that another 2-point conversion, and I know the one was controversial, but now getting the 2-point conversion to stick here. By the way, I don't know what the hell that linebacker was doing. And now the 49ers also winning. It's now the Seahawks and the 49ers at the top spot, and the Rams kind of looking at this to get more involved, but it's within a few these last 2 weeks. That number 1 spot still in flux.
That's the crazy thing to it. And one of the teams that are also in the hunt for it is the Chicago Bears. Never, ever before the season would have said Bears not only are going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be considered for the number 1 best team in the NFC. So this race, we already alluded to the chaos that is the NFL lately, but the race for the NFC and the number 1 seed is it's gonna blow your mind. Like I honestly I don't know how to even try to figure this out, because we all know how some of these teams kind of play down to their competition at times, and then all of a sudden they blow another team out that they maybe shouldn't have. So Seattle right there, the Niners are still in the running. Like, this is going to be something to watch for as we get to these close knit games. I can't wait to see it. I mean, the Niners. Remember the Niners on middle of the season? They barely had a starting roster. You
Yes.
know, they were missing Nick Bosa. They were missing several players, like Fred Werner from the middle linebacker. And then you look at the offense and how Brock Purdy went down. Mac Jones had to step up. Juwan Jennings wasn't in the lineup. Ricky Parasol wasn't in the lineup. Christian McCaffrey had a threat of an injury. You know what I mean? So, and then George Kittle missed some time. So it's like this team has really been put through the ringer. But now at this point in the season, it's uncanny. This team is not only playoff bound, but also contesting for the number 1 seed.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. And it is. And like I said, a lot of it just comes down to this NFC West division with
Yes.
a couple of others floating through. So we've talked about this division early on in the season and how tough it and how there could be 3 teams coming out of this division. And here we are. And the fact that the Seattle Seahawks have come out as kind of that top dog right now, what they've done gives kudos to what the head coach, and we talk about, coaches of the year, Mike McDonald's up there for one too, and how this Seattle Seahawks team has stepped up under Sam Darnold and this defense. These last couple of weeks are going to get pretty hairy here. No, they've got, they got to play each other. A couple, teams are going to play each other again. So, I mean, it's going to break down to the end. Who do you kind of see in this one? If you want to kind of give an early prediction on this one, who do you think really comes out of this one? Now, the smoke is cleared. We've got the Seahawks and the 49ers right here in the driver's spot.
Right.
Who do you got coming out of this one?
I mean, honestly, I love the momentum that the 49ers have built up. I The Seahawks, here's the problem with the Seahawks. Now, they overcame the Rams, right? To give them pole position at the moment. But what the Niners have done and kind of clawed their way back with through injuries, through everything, and now they're a much healthier team right now. And they've already had that built up momentum where the Seahawks have kind of been up and down. I honestly never expected the Seahawks to beat the Rams. I thought the Rams were still going to win, and I was proven wrong. But because of that inconsistency, if you want to call it, all my chips are pushed to the middle of the table on the Niners at this point. I the momentum is there. The team is much healthier than it's ever been this season. And even with the whole distraction that was Brandon Ayuk, the whole season long was kind of a little bit of the talk of the town. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Well, they said, forget it. We're done. But we're moving on from that. We're not going to think about it. No more questions anymore about Brandon Ayuk. We're moving forward with the team we got. So you get rid of that. Now it's balls to the wall. It's
Mhm.
we're going full steam ahead. We're plowing through. If we win, I'll if the Niners win their last 2 games, somewhere along the way, someone else is going to trip up. I think the Seahawks might lose one more game before we get to the end of the season. And the Rams, they're already playing from behind. So let's
Mhm.
just say, like, how long is Devontae Adams out? I don't think that's the reason why they lost to Seattle, but it does hurt a little bit. So for the Rams and how they've been playing this year, yes, they've been dominant for most of the season. But again, they're very similar to Seattle, where they kind of let some games go. They just let it get away. And I think with all the steam that the 49ers have built up to this point, I think I'm going to pick them to end up being the number 1 seed, which again, you asked me this before the season
Yeah.
started. I'm like, no way the Niners are making.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking at the schedule moving forward for them all, for me, I would say that the Rams are going to bounce back. They have the easiest one facing just the Falcons and the Cardinals, even though right now under Kirk Cousins, it looks like the Falcons have kind of bounced back a little bit here. But to me, looking at the remaining between these 3 teams, they've got the easier route to get there. But that doesn't bode well for them into the playoffs, I believe. Say they've
And
got this easy schedule at the end. They could potentially take that spot, get the bye week, and then come into the playoffs lethargic. Meanwhile, you have the Seattle Seahawks who have the Carolina Panthers, which isn't an easy out because it's even going to be in Carolina, and you know how they play there. And then the Fners week 18, where all the chips maybe come down on this one. So that's going to be tough there. Meanwhile, the Niners, they have the Bears right before they play the Seahawks. So tough. And out of those 3 teams, yes, I believe the Rams could come out on top as the number 1 seed, but the team with the game hardened wins and the more playoff atmosphere and experience, San Francisco 49ers, Chicago Bears, they're a playoff team right now. Really good defense. Going to be
yeah.
out. The atmosphere is going to be electric in
Mhm.
Levi Stadium at home. And then another home game against the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be electric. Seahawks are a tough playoff team. Good defense, too, on top of it. You come out of them unscathed, your team can feel like you're unbeatable. And you're going into this playoff with so much momentum. And if you're not even getting that bye week, you might be a little tired, might be a little banged up. But right now, the momentum, the atmosphere, the head coach who's been there multiple times, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, they've all been there. So that will take hold. And I think the San Francisco 49ers on the NFC side of the playoffs is a really dangerous team.
And here's the other variables that we have no idea what the coaching staffs are planning. Because how many of them are going to be like, all right, well, yeah, we want to fight through to get the first seed, but at what cost? Because we've seen guys get injured last week that, they left the field, didn't return. What's the evaluation on them for going forward into the playoffs? Do they want to continue playing their high-end starters too? I get the number 1 seed is right there within grasp, but you don't want to lose a critical starter right before the
Mhm.
playoff run, right before you're one of the favorites. Like, honestly, you look at the Bears, you look at Seattle, Niners, Rams. Right now, they're considered the favorites of the NFC to make the Super Bowl at least.
Mhm.
And you don't want to lose a critical piece, is all I'm saying. So, at what point is maybe saying, maybe we don't go for maybe the last week of the season, we're going to rest Matt Stafford, or maybe the last week of the season, for Seattle, we're going to rest, Raheed Shaheed and, Jackson Smith and Jibba, like, just to make sure.
Yeah.
we're going to have them.
Absolutely.
So we don't know what the game plans are going to be when it gets down to it. Are they going to still leave those guys in and risk? I understand it's for the number one seed. You get home advantage throughout the playoffs, but at what cost could you possibly be giving it up for?
Yep, absolutely, Joe. And finally, who will come out on top in the NFC South? The Buccaneers drop another one against a
tell ya.
division rival and a playoff team right now. And now the team who leads in that division, the Carolina Panthers, playing strong at home in a tough one. And a nail biter again, where the Bucks, they're almost like the Chiefs, but have a better record, right? But
Yeah.
games where they won the close ones last year, they're not winning this year. And Baker Mayfield, running around like a chicken with his head cut off again, trying to do everything. We get it, but the chips aren't falling in his, side, this year.
No, and that's the thing is it's not and I'll say this, it's not the offense. It's not. I watched that
No.
Buccaneers, Panthers game, and I gotta tell you, I alluded to it before it even got here. I said Todd Bowles, his defense, right? Like he's had years to add talent to this defense, and then also call the defense. And I'm sorry, that defense is lacking. I don't think it's lacking in talent. I just think it's lacking direction. I think it's lacking, creativeness, like doing different types of. Now, Todd Bowles does do creative blitzes here and there, but something is just not right with that team. I don't know if it's Todd Bowles himself and the way he's coaching this defense, the way he's calling the plays, but I got to be honest, he's leaving guys wide open in the passing game. For some strange reason, whatever he's drawn up isn't matching. And honestly, that's where the Buccaneers are kind of lacking. They can score points with the best of them. We've seen it. We've seen this offense when it's really hitting on all cylinders. Baker Mayfield and this team can put up some points, but it seems like they're always having to do that just to not only stay in games, but even have to come from behind and win games.
Mhm.
Now, I'm sorry, but if you love football and you watch it, there's only one finger it can go to at this point. It's Todd Bowles and his defense and the lack of productivity for that defense. They have been absolutely horrendous trying to stop opposing offenses. And that is where they're lacking. You look at the Panthers, Jesus, talk about a late birthing team in this season. I mean, this team was downright awful in the beginning of the year. And then middle of the year, they were kind of hit or miss. And now as we get towards the end of the year, Bryce Young is playing better. This offense is starting to click. The protection up front is even better. The receivers, like you have the young receivers, you got Xavier Legette, you got Tedero McMillan, who's the rookie this year, both playing better.
Mhm.
And then the defense is excelling. And that is a young defense. You look at Mike Edwards on one side and JC Horn on the other. Good luck. Go ahead. Try to throw the ball because they've had numerous interceptions the past couple of weeks and terrorizing quarterbacks. So they are a team that's late ascending. The Buccaneers are declining in terms of their defense, not holding up at the point. And honestly, it's a coin flip between these two. It really is when it all comes down to it.
Right. And it really is. And it's funny is because now with that Buccaneers team, there's that doubt in your head where teams where you
Right.
thought they had a chance to win. I thought they were going to bounce back and win against, the Saints. I thought they were going to
Yes.
win against, Atlanta. I mean,
Yep.
I thought they're going to maybe win this one, but I
Mhm.
also picked the Panthers because I'm like, hey, at home they're better. They're going to win in this one, and they did. But now they have the Dolphins coming and then the Panthers again. So it will potentially come down to that last game again, the showdown, winner takes all. Who do you believe in by that point? It will be in Tampa Bay, though. So I would think I would side there. And I think Tampa Bay's chances of winning 2 straight out of here, especially they're playing the Dolphins. Meanwhile, the Panthers have the Seattle Seahawks they have to face.
Yes.
And then the Buccaneers. It's going to be a tight one, like you said, but I can't believe any of these teams. These two are just so back and forth. I don't know who's going to come out of this one unscathed, but I do know, like you said, Todd Bowles, I think his seat is getting hotter by the moment. And when it's all said and done, you talked about Black Monday, his name could be there.
Oh,
It
yeah.
probably should be there to the fact that poor run defense, consistent pressure, and lack of tackling, stuff that's pretty much easy, lack of coverage, everything. Where he's the head coach, that's your thing. and you're not performing in that way, and you can't put it all on the offense and what they're doing. So
He's a defensive.
So when it comes down to it, I'm gonna side with the Bucks here. But if it comes down to the Panthers taking it, man, then I'd say that Todd Bowles, he's got to be on his way out the door.
If the Buccaneers don't make the playoffs, they're done. He's done, hands down. There's already rumors now, before we even got an answer if they're making the playoffs or not, that his seat is hot. He might not return. You know what I mean? They may decide to make a move, which I think that would be the right decision. But again, when you go looking at these two teams, who's going to take that division? The Panthers got the toughest matchup this week. They play Seattle. You don't think Seattle wants to destroy the Panthers? You don't think Seattle wants to push them out of the playoffs, possibly? I think that this is going to be a good. I don't think Seattle's going to blow them out, but because the Panthers, like you said, Jimmy, like they play better at home, rightfully so. But they're playing a really tough team in Seattle. You know they're hungry. You know they want to continue to win to possibly get that number 1 seed or lock it in, I should say. And then with the last game, like let's just say, for example, Seattle beats Panthers. You know, now the Buccaneers are in the driver's seat to where they can, if they win against the Panthers, it's a lock.
Yeah.
They're done, obviously. So I'm going to go with the team that has the lesser schedule right now. And I know both these teams have been up and down too. They've both made mistakes.
Yeah.
Even look at that past Buccaneer Panther game this past week. That it was so back and forth. It was crazy. Both teams were making mistakes. And it was almost like, do you want to go to the playoffs? No, I don't want to. How about you go? It was just idiotic. It was ridiculous to watch. And now you got a tough matchup with the Panthers in Seattle. I'm going to take the lesser of the two evils here. I'm going to hope that maybe the Buccaneers, they got the offense to compete with anybody. You know, I feel like they have the best chance to pull off maybe a round 1 win, but man, that defense definitely has to get better.
All right. So, yep, that's it for the show tonight. Joe, why don't you tell everybody here how they can get more episodes like this one and check out more shows like the Blindside Blitz here?
Very easily. Head over to Grumblings Media for us. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button there while you're there. It does go a long way. It helps us, get more noticed by other people out there. And definitely. Oh, well, we got a comment down there.
Yeah, comment out here. I want to give a shout out to a disciple of him out there. All right.
The best team win.
Yeah, may the best team win without the zebra screwing it up. That is a fact. But that is tough, though.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to rain on your parade, but the refs are always going to screw up these games. So we know that's a fact.
Yes. It seems like the more, that's on the line, they screw it up more and make it more confusing.
It doesn't even have to be on the line. They just, they do what they do. But head over to Grumblings Media for us. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up while you're there. It does let YouTube know, like, hey, maybe people should get noticed. Maybe we send more people over to you guys. And don't forget to tell a friend, spread the word. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. There it is. If you want to just look at the show, look it up and subscribe, that's fine. That's the harder way. But right there, we have the QR code right there. Nice and easy for you. Simple. Just scan it and you guys can be all involved with us and check us out for the next show. That's it for us. We want to thank Blake Beddingfield again for joining us. That was very insightful and a lot of fun to talk to him. So I can't wait to talk to him again. And you guys make sure if you missed the beginning of the episode, you can always check it on anywhere you get your podcast, Google, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you get your podcast. So check out the old stuff too if you didn't check the live show. So thank you so much. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.